So, good evening, everybody, and welcome to this Thursday evening unique series of Soil, Becoming the Best Version of Yourself. This whole series was created by a source of inspiration within us when we asked ourselves the question, what can we do to take responsibility in this time of acute crisis in the planet? And what could we do to bring about new vibrations, new thoughts? And so, what was revealed to us at that time that we should really pay attention closely to some leaders who are unique human beings, who are seeing the world with a fresh pair of eyes, and who are responding in a way that can really help to make the world better. So I'm so delighted that this evening Arun has accepted our invitation to be part of this series. Thank you, Arun. I first met you when you were a young man and you had just come out of college and you had just become an entrepreneur. And what a privilege and joy it has been for me to see your journey from a young entrepreneur with very small size of team to now somebody at the world stage who is making India proud of her heritage and making all of us proud of the fact that we are associated with you. So thank you, Arun, for coming to our Soil channel this evening.
Thank you, Anil, for your remarks. And it's a great relationship with you from last 32 years of relationship. So I'm continuously learning from you through your conversation, dialogues, and engagements.
Thanks a lot, Arun. So, you know that the first question I have been asking everybody, which I also would like to ask you, that out of this life that you have lived, which is what a blessed life that you have had, what are the times you recall which stand out to you as periods in which you and your colleagues came together and did something exceptional, which gave you a lot of happiness and satisfaction? So tell us more about some of those times.
So I think the whole life, I never did a formal company. I never joined a formal company. So with two other friends, Yogesh and Vishnu, we started a first company in 83 as soon as I passed out from Delhi College of Engineering. I had an opportunity to go to US, but I got hurt by my brother-in-law saying, "Oh, come to US, nothing is possible in India." So sometime it hurts me. And then I said, "Oh, I'll do something out of India." So I had a green card that time, but try our luck in India. Fortunate enough to get the right friends and right people, ordinary people, but doing the extraordinary dream. So the few moments, I would say, when we made a decision that, okay, we want to set up a software company way back in 1986. And first company we set up as Nucleus Software Workshop in Delhi. And 1988, when you spoke to us in Maurya Sheraton, though we are a team of 35, 40 people, but our dreams were 5-star Maurya Sheraton, annual day of Nucleus Day of that size of the company. So I think that day was where the culture of the company got shaped up. The foundation of the, I would say, all India company shaped up. Otherwise, it was a small South Section 2-bedroom apartment company with very limited resources, but with a large dream. That evening, I would say, we celebrated late evening on Maurya, but there the team come together and formation of team happened and shaping happened. Then I shifted to Chennai in 1990. It was again a vulnerable place for me, new city. I didn't know anybody in this Chennai, but I love the city because it is a city where I could able to experiment my own self here, and I don't have a obligation of weekend parties in Delhi. So fortunately, I stay back. Manju and me decided to stay back in Chennai. And one of the moments which is a memorable event is when we 40 people of Nucleus went to a Lakshya. Lakshya is the annual goal setting process where we went there and we say what we want to see ourselves in year 2000. And we were just 2-3 crore revenue company and limited resources. We are happy people, but 2-3 crore company. And that group said, "Oh no, we want to be somewhere in the global village." And it's so various people, various groups formed the team, and they said, we want to be 200 crore company by year 2000. We said 200 crore is too big a dream, from 2 crore to 200 crore. Let's calm down and make it 100 crore as a dream. And we set up our dream of 100 crore at that time, from 2 crore to 100 crore in the next 7 years. And when the journey of this 40 people, which we call Konarks, started, we didn't recorded the business plan out of it, because we could not have created a business plan from 2 crore to 200 crore in a linear fashion. And that's where I have a difference of opinion with business schools, where we emphasize on business plan, because certain things, entrepreneurship journeys, are not related to business plans. It is related to more entrepreneurial kind of energy, which drives the whole agenda. And from 2 crore to 260, we achieved 260 crore by year 2000. It was almost like 100 times we could able to achieve. And if I go back and saying, how did we achieve? I think it was a universal energy which came together of all the people which we could hire at that time. We could not have hired the best people from the industry because our capacity was limited. So that moment was beautiful when we went public in 1999 and company got listed. Nobody knew that those stock options which we given in 1993 would be worth millions for them. And it was a moment of enjoyment for everybody. It's something like celebration happened. Then we acquired first multinational out of India. When we acquired Citibank subsidiary in 2002, my personal satisfaction was an Indian company acquired a multinational, rather than most of the time Indian players sell it to multinational. So the multinational, the Kozal, which was our competitor when we started in 86, when we acquired them in 2002, it was a moment of delight for all of us who were vindicating that Indian talent and Indian teams can perform better than global teams in the world. So that's a journey of up to 2006 was a journey of continuous growth and continuous experimentation and going to global, going from country A to B to C to. So we land up into doing business in more than 24 countries of the world with various subsidiaries, which is there. It's a common usual story there. Then came sometime 2006, 2007, when we hit upon some Silicon Valley. I went there. I found Silicon Valley is very different from the services industry we were enjoying. So till 2006, we were enjoying IT services industry. We were growing because of Y2K. And that's where I did some research. I found something called design thinking is very different in Silicon Valley, which is not a part of the eastern side of the globe. And that defined them very differently than what conventional software industry gets defined. And that curiosity led me to understand design thinking significantly differently, and my desire to put the products space, because fundamentally the Silicon Valley makes money with us products. They don't make money with the services, because services are limited by the substantial limitations are there. And then where the product journey started. So the movement was difficult between 2006 to 2014, 15, till the time we took a decision to bifurcate the business into services and product, and then took a call to launch a new brand, Intellect. Now we created a Nucleus brand first and Polaris brand second, and the third is an Intellect brand. And a lot of people ask me the question, why do you need to create a third brand, Intellect? Why can't you run on a Polaris brand? My personal belief was that each brand has a characteristics and a persona which defines. So Polaris brand was a service brand. It was a global known brand, but we cannot launch a premium brand under Polaris. And product has to be premium brand if you want to go to the Western market, because Western market, your persona has to be premium. They don't want to buy. Second number, price is not a consideration. The premium is a consideration for the Western market. So when this brand becomes, after 3-4 years, it becomes known in a global market, that's another moment of joy for the team, which stood by during this phase of last 5 years, where we invested close to 1,000 crore in building a brand and products out of India. So I think these are the multiple points where I felt joyful. And one moment of joyful with you was transformational leadership program sometime in 1996, where you, Peter Block, and Dinesh Chandra, I think, was there in that workshop in Dharamshala, where as a young entrepreneur, I happened to meet Anu Aga, I happened to meet Vikram Lal, and for 3 days and 3 nights, those inspirational days has changed the purpose of my from personal growth to the institutional building growth. So that was an important learning which I want to highlight, Anil.
Thank you, Arun. And amongst all the things that you've said, something that really made me feel 100 feet tall, if I may use the metaphor, is when I was coaching one of your senior executives recently. And he told me in that day that, today we got the news that our product has been recognized as the best retail banking product in the world. I said, did you say in the world? He said, yes. I almost got up out of excitement. So my wife, Neera, said, what happened, Anil? I said, Arun's company has been given this recognition. So tell me, how did that happen? That is something which every Indian has a right to feel very proud about.
We are very proud of it. That's a joyous moment last month which happened is IBS published a league table of the product companies, and not in one category, not retail banking. We got number 1 in wholesale banking as well as retail banking products. So 2 products got rated number 1 in the world. And
wow.
that's a... So I think how it happened, your question was?
Yes.
I think it was a journey of last 10 years. I would say last 2% is 200%. 98% products in the world are similar. The differentiation, a Apple phone, we pay 3 times the price than a next level phone with the same feature and functionality, just because of 0.1% differentiation of security and safety in a brand. And that was my inspiration for saying if Intellect has to put a product on the world, it should not be India brand that's a cheap, sasta tikau kind of a brand. It has to be a brand which is premium brand. So my first challenge to the team was that we need to sell the product at 30% premium to my global competitors. Now, sales team was very, very worried to me that how can you sell coming from India 30% premium to the global brand from Europe and America? Normally, you sell 30% cheaper than the global brands. That's a norm. But then we look at it, what is the design thinking can be applied? We invested a 30,000 square feet center of design thinking where we changed the culture of the company. Because culture of the company, something is by talking in lectures, something is by experiential learning. So we invested almost between 2011, 2012, we created a design center, FT8012, which is around latitude and longitude of the place where we take a pride in. And that design center was a cultural change center. We are as the Indian IT industry, which was order taker industry. As service industry is order taker. You need to deliver to what somebody else orders. Now there are 3 stages in the change, from order taker to problem solver to agenda setter. So you need to change the self-belief of the people in the company that they are the agenda setter of the wholesale banking technology in the world. So if you want to change to agenda setter, then I need to know so much about the wholesale banking. How does it happen in Europe? How does it happen in America? How does it happen in Singapore? How does it happen in Japan? Because to acquire the world stature, I need to understand all the domains. So our research teams have been put in to bring the best of the practices. So by best of the knowledge database, where we categorize in a very cataloged, very L0, L1, L2 of design thinking philosophy. And on the other side, we look at the marketplace that which are the best customer who understand it. If HSBC understands well, if JPMC understands well, Mizo understands well, MEFG understands well. So we pick up those, Citibank understands it well. We pick up those customers and try to understand from them. So by 2017-18, we could have able to put the products in a global marketplace, win some deals. We could win the deals singularly. The biggest pride we got it, we sold the license at $10 million for one customer. Even for bidding for $10 million for license from Indian company, our salespeople were feeling very uncomfortable. Arun, are you becoming too ambitious? Because $2-3 million itself is 21 crore for the license. A license is only license. You don't have to give anything. And you're asking customer to pay 70 crore rupees in advance without seeing the product in a place. It's a floppy getting delivered to him. And so it is a big journey. I think our teams have supported Manish, Rajesh, and the phenomenal team. I'm fortunate. A lot of people in Intellect and Police. I'm lucky to have those people who have who never written a resume in their life. So in today's life, their first jobs, there will be at least 200 people in Polaris Intellect who is the first job from last 30 years in this company, and they joined and working in it. So I'm blessed with the kind of a team to make this possible, number one, in wholesale and retail banking.
This is wonderful. You have described the process, but tell me, when you achieve this kind of, let's say, when you set up an audacious goal like that we want to be the best and we want to sell at a premium to global prices, it's an audacious goal. In inner part of many people say, this seems too audacious.
Yeah.
And would we be able to do it? So how did you handle that doubting? Because all of us begin to have doubts about ourselves, that are we good enough for them?
Yeah.
How did you tackle that part?
No, this is a beautiful question. I think what we follow this model of shared visioning, which becomes like Lakshya in 2017 or 2014. So every 2-3 years when we sit down together, I think there are two things which work in an organization. One is subconscious level thinking, and one is at a business plan level. So subconscious level thinking, when we do 2 crore to 260 crore, we never looked at a business plan. We never created a business plan for it. Similarly, when audacious goals, we set it up in 2014 and 15, when we set up Intellect, we set up the oral direction, but we don't repeat that every time, because every time, and if you repeat every time, it creates a fear factor and you build on the fear by the team. But at subconscious level, the aspiration is rightly set, that we would like to be 100 crore company, we would like to be number one in the world. That remains, but every time I don't repeat, and we don't repeat every time. Because it remains at subconscious level, it creates a purpose for everybody. The purpose becomes bigger than what quarterly goals are, what annual goals are, some losses are happening. So we were making 200 crore profit when we were Polaris, and we were making 200 crore loss when we were in Intellect. It was a big transition from cash reserves coming into cash burn, which is happening. So it creates a doubt in the mind of the various employees. So your question is very, very important, that during this phase, we need to be together. We need to keep nudging them. So I would say nudging them rather than reviewing them, and not a review process. We need to have a dialoguing process. So I learned from Krishnamurti Foundation, the circle time. The circle time becomes an important way of understanding each other emotional quotient along with their competence quotient. And from there, you need to build up capacity quotient. So these three quotient, when you have to build for driving this change, is what is important for us to drive it and nudge it.
That's amazing, because I remember when we first started working with you and we were ourselves learning with you and introducing new language and new ways of thinking. It's amazing for me to see that you not only built that into your own language, but you actually were always hungry to learn new things. You always had this source of picking up. How could you learn more? And I remember one of your questions to me. So why do we have a need to keep talking more rather than listening more? And you said to me, one of the biggest challenges of many of us is that we don't listen enough. Tell me more about that. How did you tackle that within yourself and within others to increase their learning quotient?
I would say my Jain learning, I say Darshan, Gyan, Charitra, which is a Samyak Darshan, Samyak Gyan, Samyak Charitra of Jain religion. It talks about that to change anybody, any transformation, you change the darshan first. Darshan is a worldview. Darshan is a worldview. Darshan is a philosophy. So if you change the darshan, then your knowledge changes. And when your knowledge changes, your character changes. Now, darshan changes with how the darshan changes. If I keep telling and if I'm not receiving anything, my worldview cannot change. My worldview can only change when I listen to something more, different perspective from the people. So darshan goes into listening or silence. So both of them have the same alphabets. Listen and silence, both have the same alphabets. And it was a difficult journey, Anil, because as a CEO of the company, you are likely people want to listen to you, or they provoke you to speak more than what So I think after a lot of self-awareness, when I start doing circle time, and circle time has 15, 20 people, obviously then your time is only 5 minutes. You have to distribute that 1 hour or 2 hour time to other people. So that was the beginning of listening. And now I think it become a habit afterwards.
Oh, very wonderful. Yes, listen and silent have the same, 6 alphabet. And I'm curious that when you were sourcing this kind of learning within yourself and when you were encouraging others to learn, it requires almost a habit of what we are now calling the growth mindset, because there are a lot of people who get a fixed mindset. There are a lot of people who become self-satisfied at different standards of performance. And it requires almost to say that we have to enjoy this journey, that you are not emphasizing that you want this output, but that this journey is important. How did you build that into your culture?
This is another because we are living in a world where most of the cultures are coming from Western corporate cultures. And our human mind in Indian professional sometimes is imitating mind. Whatever is working in Western world, let's apply GE culture, let's apply city culture, let's apply anybody who they see it in Western world, Silicon Valley culture. I think that is the most difficult task, which I think in last 5 years, I consciously tried to build in the top management layer. And it took me significant amount of time. Let me just tell you that design thinking, from 2014, I am forcing my top management team also didn't accept the design thinking principle. From an external world, I will say, oh, everybody is a design thinking person. But the inside belief from the heart, from mind, they may be telling about design thinking, but inside the heart, it took almost 4 years for people to understand the benefit of design thinking. When I demonstrated them that with design thinking, I can reduce the support calls from 1,000 to 50, 20x the variation can be brought in operational efficiency. Unless they saw it, they never believed into it. Even my own top management, but they are coming from lateral companies. Somebody's coming from one organization, somebody's coming from second organization. So now, after 7 years, we could able to have a more aligned group where everybody understand the language of design thinking. What is L0, L1, L2? What is Coparis? What is belief? So all these elements are now aligned. At least top 500 people understand it, and our throughput start happening. But it's a continuous job of creating the environment of learning in the company, which is step by step, and keep not being angry. Sometimes I feel angry. So when something looks so obvious to me that why it's not been adopted, how to control your anger and being aware of your frustration before jumping the gun.
That's amazing, Arun. And what I have personally experienced with you is that you have a way of defining and talking about design thinking, which is very unusual. You are not speaking like the IDEO man or like only the Silicon Valley person. You seem to combine many different parts to it. And therefore, you have written that book on design thinking called Unmukt. And you talk about the Unmukt mind. Can you elaborate on that? Because that is very unusual and original. This is not a copy of the idea of design thinking.
That's right. I say the design thinking has two words: design the thinking for and thinking the design. So Western world is looking at too much about the process side of it. So IDEO talks about the 5-step design process, while our Eastern philosophy talks about boundaryless thinking. All my spiritual gurus always talk about boundaryless thinking. They talk about cosmos, they talk about universe. So all the universal learning which has happened in India is revolved around how do we self-aware. Starting point. Self-aware is around the way my emotional quotient of doubt, what is the meaning of conflict, what is the meaning of ego, what is the meaning of fear, what is the meaning of limiting beliefs, what is the meaning of comfort zone versus vulnerability, what is the meaning of abundance. These are the things which are part of my Eastern philosophy. And unless those things get settled down, the second part is just a process part. Process part can be repeated, but it cannot transform. It can give an incremental benefit for the transformation. But first piece of understanding the human psychology and human thinking process and connecting to the spiritual part of deep knowledge, whether it's a Jain scriptures or Vedas or Upanishad, those knowledge are time immemorial knowledge. How do you combine the two of them? That's where my research between 2008 and 2010 happened, Unmukt. Unmukt, I named it because I observed the birds. These birds are sitting on the tree, and on the same tree you have a crow, and same tree you have a parrot, and same tree you have a pigeon. They're sitting together. Nowhere happens in corporate culture. I call it myself marketing manager, I call it myself sales manager, I call it myself production manager. I don't call it myself as myself. And if I call it myself as myself, I have a learning capacities which are far beyond my simple ability to do it. So boundaryless thinking, when I become boundaryless, that creates a huge capability of understanding. And that is a process of, Anil, which you say, dialogue, appreciative inquiry. I think some of the things which I inspire, you are the inspiration for me. And some of the things I learned from my daughter used to go to Krishnamurti school, and I used to go along with her. So some of the teaching happened from her or her school in this manner, and various professors on the western side, on Silicon Valley. So combination of 3-4 things which is coming out Unmukt and which is driving the results for me.
And that word Unmukt, how was that revealed to you?
So when the moment of when I'm doing the design thinking workshop, and sometime when moment of joy comes in, when you discover and connect the dots, because you are observing a lot of patterns. So in typically outcome of any business performance is a structured thinking and your critical reasoning. In intersection of it, you get an insight. And when the group is working on it and you get a beautiful insight, you are almost like flying in the sky, which is almost like a Unmukt kind of a behavior. You like a bird, and that feeling of bird when it's there, that's the Unmukt.
Very nice. Because there are a lot of young people who are on this channel listening to you, and I'm going to soon open up the dialogue to their questions to you. But on their behalf, I asked one question. Many of these people are about to begin their careers, or they will soon get into new opportunities at a young age where they are in their beginning of their professional career. And they are watching many of the big companies and senior leaders talking about it and its impact on the world. And so some of them are overwhelmed by the kind of panic it has created in the world markets and so on and so forth. So obviously they are very concerned about the future. On one hand, they are worried about their older parents and their well-being and their family. On the other hand, they are very concerned about their own future. So Arun, when this whole thing began to happen, how did you personally, you and your colleagues respond to it? And how are you seeing this whole situation developing? And therefore, through that, what would be the insights you wish to share with young people in this channel today?
Let me share when it started happening. We picked up a first signal on 6th of February. We set up a first team to handle on 6th of February. And 12th of February, we had a first travel advisory coming out. Again, we applied the design thinking over there. We had a session of 2 hours for design thinking that this is going to be there. We heard from Singapore, Thailand, some of the customers that they are not allowing our people to visit them. And suddenly we invited the meeting and created a framework of which we will be monitoring over the period of time. Obviously, by the 24th of March, when it became a reality, by 9th of March, at least we knew that the world economy will shrink by 7%. We could be able to calculate internally that world economy will shrink by 7% on 9th of March by our own internal calculations. So we've prepared, at least internally, that it's going to be a big issue going forward. So we prepared everybody in the company, start socializing it. It's not an easy issue. And we start doing the risk planning. And we found that cash will become most critical at this point of time. And collections becomes most important from the client. If the pending collections are there, let's focus on that, because cash has to be there. My banking limits has to be there, because when such kind of crisis happen, we don't know how much business will be there, not there. But then everybody was almost 200 people got ready with the issue which is facing it. Multiple dialoguing session happened, multiple jam board happened. So I think we were very worried from 15th March to, I would say, 15th May. For 60 days, entire management team was worried. We were having a weekly long calls on understanding this. But I think since we spotted enough by having a dialoguing session, we could able to share our anxiety together openly with each other. And by sharing the anxiety, the fear, anxiety to fear, we avoided the getting to fear, because when you get into fear, then your thinking process get stopped. And we never convert in that 3 months period. We never allowed us to be in fearful zone of thinking process. So obviously, still things are uncertain. But fear, we look at this as an opportunity. Opportunity is that, okay, let's plan a strategy to go to existing customer and get a business out of them. Help them in solving their problems rather than going to new customer. So spotting the right opportunity is there. But for the new people who are joining the career now, I think this issue is definitely there. But a lot of companies have started learning to deal with it by having a working from home or working from institution. Opportunities will be lower. Definitely, it's not the same kind of a acceleration which is there. If world economy has to shrink by 7-8%, definitely for white collar people or consultant or the business managers will have a short of opportunities. We need to sharpen our conversations with the interviewer much better for the opportunities. What is our core competency? Theory of individual has to come in more sharper over here. The way you have courage. So what I want to look at it, the people needs to have a courage, not fearful. When you go to the interview with a fearfulness or self-doubt, I think that's the first mistake one get into. And something you will be having, everybody, human being nature has given some gift to each one of us. Let's recognize that gift, and that's what we need to leverage in today's world.
Extremely good. Extremely good. Thank you, Arun. I will now be asking you questions which are coming. A lot of questions are coming from the audience. Gopal PK is asking a question. With your expertise, which strategy is better, to be a product company or a services company, or look at both?
I would say both are two different way of working. There's no question of two strategies. One strategy is driving a lot of jobs in India. Service industry is a huge industry. It's providing opportunities of transformation for India. And product is also a different way of looking at the business, because product is a way of saying that I will set the agenda for the world market and my product should be leveraged by global marketplace. From profit margin perspective, product business in a long term can be high margin business of 30-40% margin business, while services will be a lower margin business because of the extreme competition which will be there. So over the period of time, the services business may keep on the joy shrinking in service business because competitive margins are coming down and more companies are there. While product business has an expanding margin, because the more the product you sell year on year, you get a annual maintenance fees for that, and your margin keep on expanding. So these are the two different models, and both are useful model for India.
There is another very interesting question which has come up from Deen Dayalan, who runs an organization to serve the grassroots level employees. So he's asking that your heart is rural India because you have launched this mission Samriddhi, which is to bring design thinking to serve the villages of the country. Can you talk a bit more about that? And can you talk about how can you bring migrants back to their roots which they may have learned something in the urban cities, and how can they create more value in their own villages? How can they use design thinking in the rural areas? And how can they learn? So tell us a bit about Mission Samriddhi and your endeavors, and maybe Deen Dayalan will then get a deeper perspective of what you're trying to do there.
Important question. I think when we look at design thinking in corporate world and the product world, next challenge for me was that in 2016, when I visited poorest area, Yavatmal in Maharashtra district, where most of suicide happened. So we around 15 people visited on 9th of May 2016, Yavatmal and from Wardha, where we visited a Gandhi place there. And suddenly we found that there's so much is required in the whole space of understanding the rural India. And I was so incompetent to even talk about rural India in 2016. So first acknowledging it that I don't know what I don't know. And that's where the journey begins of learning that we need to learn. Then where to learn from? We said then we found there are too many small NGO efforts are happening, non-profit efforts are happening in the country. Let's understand and make them guru for us. So we collected almost 100 such organizations which are working at a national level and bring them into a common platform called Samriddhi platform and learn from each one of them. So in this process, we understand the whole landscape of rural India. Rural development has got 7 dimensions of it. First dimension is the personal dimension itself of the rural India. When you ask migrant worker, I think problem is much more deeper. We have 900 million people live in rural India. They themselves can have a $1 trillion economy. But this 900 million people we are imitating urban models and putting in rural India. We are not originally creating their own models of development. So first is a personal development, their own belief system. A sarpanch in the village is a CEO of the company. He runs a village of 5,000 people. I am as a company CEO runs 5,000 people. What is the difference between me and him for who is running the village versus Arun Jain who is running in a corporate world? Because both of us are responsible for the earning potential of 5,000 people in the group. So my responsibility and my purposes are not different. But what is the skill set difference? Did we set up a IIPM, Indian Institute of Panchayat Management, like IITs and IIMs? If we created a capacities 50 years back for engineering and management, we never created a capacity of learning for the Panchayat management. Gandhiji might have said something in 1940s, but after that, nobody paid any attention to it. So this is a root problem is how we look at the rural India as a beggar, as a low-end part of the work. So their self-image of rural India is subordinated image. On the other side, we are saying we need to build up an image of a powerful self-image when we want to create a belief system. So it has to start from personal development. From there, we need to get into social development. From there, we need to go to economic development. Jumping economic development by giving a subsidy is giving antibiotic to the patient, which may solve the problem for the time being, but underlying problem solving doesn't happen on this. So migrant labor issue, we may have some immediate short-term belief system, but first of all, we have to change our mindset. We need to have all the HR professionals of urban India. I need their help. If they can adopt a village and change a mindset of a one community of self-belief and self-doing. And we have seen those models in Jharkhand, we have seen those models in Maharashtra, we have seen those models in UP, where self-image is getting changed. And those self-image, as soon as we change, these migrant workers are very good activators, because they are like what we were migrant labor as a IT professional. We were also migrant to US, and we came back from US and India. So there's no difference between the people of IT industry who went to America, came back and started IT companies. Similarly, this migrant labor who went to Bombay and Delhi, when they come to the villages, they can start the similar kind of businesses in rural India. They have to provide that kind of a confidence that they can bring a difference to them. And that's where a lot of role urban community has to give them a confidence. Main hoon na.
What a very nice thing to say, Arun. Swami Chidrupananda Saraswati of Chinmaya Mission is attending this session. Hari Om, Swamiji. And he's talking about what a wonderful, excellent perspective. And he says spirituality is the core. And so he's very encouraging about this whole conversation you are having to you, and he's sending his blessings to you. And Shivani Bhatnagar, who's one of our young students who's specializing in HR, is saying, Arun, how can design thinking transform the way HR is run in companies? Can you show some insights about that?
HR I think, is becoming a more of a, to me, within my company, I find HR has a very standard templatized business. Performance management, appraisal systems, recruitment system, it's templatized. So over the period of 30, 40 years of industry, HR has boxed themselves in. I say, I am a tag specialist. I am a performance management specialist. Who is a dialogue expert here? How you conduct appreciative inquiry everywhere? And in our organization, intellect and polarize, my frustration is there that we say, oh, he's a fresher. The word is, oh, he's a 1 year experience. Yeah, we all were 1 year experience when we started our career. Who has given us a right that he's a kid? We don't respect him as a full human potential person at that place. HR role has to be seen each individual in its holistic manner rather than being seen himself as a boxed in element saying he's in marketing, or he's in sale, or he's in. So the entire job rotation process itself is so overly boxed process, while the best ability comes in when somebody who's supporting a customer tomorrow start writing the product, because he knows the problem, he knows the empathy of the customer, and that empathy has to come in for the HR. So how much time HR puts in dialoguing with the people and creating a dialoguing platforms and expression platforms, creating a kind of festival in the organization every day, every week some festival is happening. That is the kind of environment if HR can create, that will be the most valuable celebration one can do.
Arun Nair, who's a Unilever board member, and he's a very well-known executive coach and a dear friend. So RR says, it's fascinating to listen to your convictions and how you prepare to face the pandemic. He says he heard you say co-envision with your team as they too understand the larger cause and purpose of your joint journey. Given the trend to work from home, how do you carry the spirit to your employees in the future, this co-creation? How do you think this will happen when people are operating from home?
Actually, this digital platform has helped me out in reaching out to the larger audience than I was doing physically when I was in office. When I was in office, I used to do within a city of Chennai, within a city of Bombay, I was able to connect them. Today, with the digital platform, the co-envisioning is possible globally. So when we have certain problem to solve, we bring the best people from global place, wherever the person is, and then start doing the envisioning using Jamboard. There's a tool on Google Enterprise called whiteboarding session. We can do a whiteboarding session together on Jamboard where simultaneously people can put their issues, put their challenges, put their opportunities, put their pipeline. So we able to do some of the product launches, like iTurmeric is a new product we launched. It took 6 weeks to launch a product. It used to be our cycle time for launching a product was close to 9 months to 12 months, even after products are ready. After that, my messaging and marketing, it used to take 9 to 12 months time. It took just 6 months time during this digital phase of co-envisioning. Because
6 weeks? You said 6 weeks, right?
6 weeks, yeah.
6 weeks.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's absolutely amazing. That is really exceptional. So what you're really saying is once you can bring that glue and get people to collectively come together to serve, then magic begins to happen. What a nice thing to say. Chinmaya Organization of Rural Development, Narendra, who is working in transforming thousands of lives, thousands of people working with the Dr. Shama Maitre, whom you know.
I know.
So Narendra Paul is talking about how Mission Samriddhi conference in Chennai, which he attended, he felt an experiential and actionable simplicity for transformation coming from there. So he's saying, how can we develop this in our children? And how can this be made a part of the national culture so that millions of children get this kind of a design thinking approach right from an early stage? How do you think that is possible?
Thank you, Ranji. You have appreciated that conference, and we've got so joy by your experiences and everybody else experiences. We said there's so many good people in this country doing so much wonderful job. There's no platform for listening to them or open listening to them. Most of the conferences are 5-minute lectures, not a kind of a experiential kind of a learning process. So, and this is one thing which we learned from design thinking, which can be applied in social thinking. The 3 words are important here. One is celebrate. Celebrate what is good happening. Second is we look at it, connecting the best people in the system, and then catalyzing it. The third is catalyzing. If all of us are catalysts who are sitting in this forum, and if we start celebrating, observing what good is happening, and have an environment, thinking of abundance within us, I think this workshops can be phenomenally valuable. So post that, we are now getting into each space in Mission Samriddhi that what are the best learnings of, let's say, kitchen garden in Vardha? How do we apply, instead of 500 kitchen gardens, can you make 100,000 kitchen gardens? If there is a Hak Darshak, if there is education, how do you make it all India? So these are in each area we are spending time, we call it L1, L2, L3. You have to go from macro to micro, and at micro level, you create a scalable model. So that's where our thought process is.
Very nice, Arun. So Amit Jain, who till recently was one of the senior executives with a company called Julon, which is a portfolio company that invests in the oil and gas sector. So he's getting a lot of rich insights. And he asked you, when you have seen so many ups and downs in the industry, how did you manage to keep the motivation level up for the leadership team? Because, many sectors, including oil and gas, which he comes from, have got severely impacted. The other day, somebody said one of the biggest oil companies has let go of 40% of its leadership team globally, right? Mm-hmm. When these kinds of things happening, how do you manage to retain motivation level in your leadership team?
Quite a difficult task. I think the authenticity is the only thing which keeps the leadership team, because a lot of leadership team sees you through that authenticity. So if I have a problem, I openly dialogue with the team that this is a problem. As soon as we try to hide the problem statement, sometimes we get into the wrong trap of non-authentic conversation. And I think authentic dialoguing is a one way of facing the bad things as good things are. So, and my experience is, if you engage the people and share authentically that this is the issue, creating a common jam board, I was as worried as other people are worried. I don't say that I know the answer. So when we become vulnerable as a leader, normally sometimes it's proposed that leaders should not be vulnerable. Leaders should show the broad chest in front of everybody. That's where the problem happens, because other people can see it, that if he has to take care of it, because this problem cannot be solved by me. This problem has to be solved by all the 5,000 employees of the company. They are equally, but we never looked at it that we need to fire anybody. Because firing, as soon as you take a first step of saying, I want to cut the cost for somebody else, that's a problem area. If we have to cut the salary, we cut the salary for everybody for that matter, if it is required to be done. And fortunately, we didn't have to take that step, but that is a problem statement when you share authentically. I think that's maybe the one answer I could have. The oil industry is much worse than our industry, so I will not have that experience.
Devduti Sen Gupta, one of our students, is asking that the hospitality industry is struggling very badly. How can design thinking be used as an approach to uplift this hospitality industry today? And what can we do therefore to channel human motivation in this very difficult sector right now?
And this is a worse sector. And definitely, I don't have a direct answer for this. The design thinking can help is to come out with a process steps that, okay, these are the, what competency this has, what assets do they have. Maybe we can have a session 1, session 2, session 3. We may find some answers. So design thinking has a 5-step process: understanding the cartographic view, defining the problem statement, then look at divergence, then convergence and storyboarding. So some answer may evolve, but immediately I don't have an answer.
Arun, Kavita Kapoor, our common friend, and Ambassador Pradeep Kapoor, who are both in Maryland. So Kavita is asking the question that thanks for your inspirational message related to rural development. What would you have done differently if you were to go back to engineering school once again? And with that perspective, what would you advise management institutes to do so that they can really build the right quality of leaders?
If I go to engineering college, I think this, Kavitaji, this is a good question. I am personally believing. First is, whatever I learned in engineering, I didn't know what the purpose of learning. If we can bring a design thinking as a first subject of looking at the perspective building in the first year itself, like Northwestern started doing design thinking in the first year itself as a course, that would have been very, very, I would have learned all those subjects with a context in mind. I never have a contextual learning. I had an examination learning. And we in engineering college, what is the learning we got in engineering college, which I share with it, we learned how in 4 weeks' time you can prepare for the exam and still score A grades. So that's the only thing we learned in engineering college, rather than learning the subject matter or what the context of the subject is there. But obviously that also helps. As the Indian graduates, we always, when the industry problem is there, we need to solve in 4 weeks' time. So we can solve something in 4 weeks' time or 6 weeks' time faster than most of the other culture, because we have in a typical semester world, we know how to prioritize which questions will come in an examination, which will not come in an examination.
That's right.
So that skill, where the Indian professionals are highly in demand in US, where maximum companies are looking for CEOs. So we are naturally built on a scarcity environment, and we know how to prioritize which is 10 gram, 100 gram, 1000 gram issues are there for the examination. But if I have to restart as a natural learner, how do you change the management school as a natural learner? I think that will be the biggest challenge for the education institution. And Soil is doing a brilliant job in making a more holistic learning than just a subject learning. And that's where the two, emotional quotient and contextual quotient, both are coming along with a competency building quotient.
Now, Aishwarya Shankar, who seems to have some more deeper knowledge of some of the things you are doing. So Aishwarya is asking a question. Sir, with IDA completing 9 years tomorrow, and for the audience sake, you can tell what IDA is all about. Do you look back to see anything which could have been done differently? Because the biggest achievement and failure in the past, which is close to a decade tenure. So can you talk a bit more about IDA and enlighten the audience what this is about?
IDA is Intellect Design Arena. So what we call the word arena, design arena, is where multiple products can be created. More of innovation from India can come from the same space. So it's not about just the one product, but multiple products can come in. In 9-year journey, what could have been done differently? I think many things could have been done differently in hindsight, because whenever you look back, the hindsight that whether I should have been more nudging at early stages of the intellect design, whether I should have been more demanding on quality control at early stages of product development, or going to the market could have been somewhat different. But going with this journey of what we are achieving in number one status after 9 years of the product journey, I think we should be satisfied and celebrate our successes of number one in retail banking and wholesale banking with a positive future going forward.
Nice. In fact, Aishwarya is a student of Soil, so I now understand it's the same alum. I was wondering whether it's someone else. So, and also thank you for telling me that IDA is Intellect Design Arena. That's a wonderful, wonderful acronym as well. there is another question being asked here by Sanjeev Tripathi. He's saying, sir, can you please share a little bit more about how HR can be a change agent in the COVID scenario? He's heading HR and for Osram India. So wants you to give some insight on how HR could play a more enabling role in the current crisis.
I think this digital channel of engaging people, HR can play a substantial role as a curiosity creator or learning creator. At Intellect, we have the way you have Thursday talk, Anil. We have a Thursday talk on digital talk for some topic. We pick it up and 2 or 3 internal people speak about it. It is a great encouragement for internal people to speak to entire organization on every Thursday, and you can motivate many people, and a lot of internal learning can go to everybody. Then there is circle times HR can do, internal circle times can do to pick up the emotions of the people and understand what kind of issues they are facing as of now. And circle time and you can find the opportunities also there. And some of the celebrations can be done on this. There are some games are available. Gaming can be done using Zoom calls or other technologies which are available over here. So I think that what HR can do differently now is HR can engage 250 people, 300 people, 500 people on a similar workshop. And Anil, you were talking last week to our people. There are 500 people participated. If 500 people, otherwise, if you would have come to Intellect office, there may not be more than 100 people in one conference room would have been accommodated. So expanding the scope can be substantial with digital channel now.
Wonderful. Ashok Ramamurthy is asking a question that in your vast experience, you have seen lots of ups and downs in Polaris. It was possible to contribute to society through Ullas Trust, even, at different times. How do you continue with that even during difficult times in business?
I think the purpose, Anil, when we sat down in 96 with your workshop and you asked the question, what is the purpose of your life? I think till 96, I was looking for a personal comfort. So it was a personal journey I had. That is the time when it became personal journey to institutional journey, that what is the nature has given me the gift. If nature has given me the gift of being entrepreneur, can you create 100 entrepreneurs? And this 100 entrepreneurs is the entrepreneurial spirit. Ullas Trust, we started in 97, where we look at it, how this dream of self-belief can be started at 9th when child is adolescent. And if you change that seed of dreaming and seed of self-belief at that adolescent when he's coming to teens, his whole life can change. And that is where the Ullas Trust started. And that is more passionate to me than a business, I would say, because there the 250,000 students per year get changed. They put a seed. All the employees of Polaris works towards that. And this is a small cost for the business to do it. But I think in the tough times or smart times, this number is very, very small and from a business perspective. But I think we need to be committed to the purpose, what we are living by.
And Arun, in Ullas Trust, I have seen with a lot of joy how your, if I may say, better half, Manju, has played such a wonderful role in being not a real partner to you in supporting you in that endeavor. And to see Manju, take responsibility to learn, I think you are blessed. And also your children seem to also have imbibed similar values. So congratulations on a life which is very well lived so far, Arun. And thank you for being part of our lives. I just want to sum up the 5 important insights that I got from you today, Arun. The first, you said that the very purpose of education, the core of that is to really know who you are and really take responsibility for answering that question for yourself. At an early stage, when there was a endeavor in your part that you wanted to take responsibility, there was something bubbling up inside you. You really wanted to take responsibility. You were careful to listen to the energy that was coming from inside you, that spirit of entrepreneurship. And because you paid attention to that, you did the kind of things that you did. So the core is listen to your own inner self. Then you said the second thing, you have to learn to dialogue. This is not just about expressing your opinion or trying to show what you know, but learn about the power of dialogue, where when you listen deeply, you really get much, much more aware. Your entire worldview changes. And so the third element you talked about is the power of the intangible, the spiritual part. When the darshana changes, when your worldview changes, then you begin to look at the world very differently. Because it is often said in spirituality that you look at the world the way you are, not the way the world is. So when you become open,
yeah, beautiful,
then all kinds of wonderful things begin to happen. The fourth thing you said, when you get into a position of responsibility, remember, you are not smarter than all the other people who work with you. Never assume that responsibility. Never pretend to have answers for all the problems, because there is no problem in the organization that a CEO can give an answer to. But the CEO can certainly invite the right people into the room around the right questions. So you really told us that the role of a leader is becoming like a social architect. Invite the right people into the room around the right question. And the last point that I want to really acknowledge about you is that your heart was beating. You never forgot your roots, that you came from a simple family with modest resources. And you said, I want to, now that God has given me this privilege of having earned certain wealth and got some experience, how can I put the power of that to use to make the country better? And what you are telling us to do is that if we can truly find solutions to work with the rural India, and you're invoking all right thinking HR people and people leaders and everybody to say, let's go and work in one village at a time and see how can we develop solutions that can improve that village. So Arun, thanks a lot for your wonderful session today. It's always very nice to be in your presence, and thank you very much for making all of us so happy this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anil. Thank you for your good question to me. Each question is a learning personally for me.